Welcome to Conversations with William M. Hoffman. I'm William M. Hoffman. Conversations is Lehman College's series of discussions with major theater and musical figures of our time. I am currently on leave, so I've asked my producer Jerry Barnard to take over as host for this show. I'll be back with you shortly. Until then, enjoy.
There's a war going on out there somewhere, and Andre isn't here. There's a war going on out there somewhere, and Andre isn't here. There's a war going on out there somewhere, and Andre isn't here. There's a war going on out there somewhere, and Andre isn't here. This is on your program. You are at the opera. You gotta have to study up a little bit if you want to keep with the plot. 'Cause it's a complicated Russian novel. Everyone's got 9 different names. So look it up in your program. We'd appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. Natasha!
Welcome to Conversations. I'm Jerry Barnard. Usually as the producer, I can be found on the other side of the camera, but today, in the second of a two-part series, Bill has graciously allowed me to present this show with 2 of the most amazing, talented stars, as we proved in our first show, of Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. Welcome to Conversations, Amber Gray and Lucas Steele. Thank you so much for being here. So tell us a little bit about the montage we just saw.
It started out with Dave Malloy playing Pierre, the guy that you saw on the accordion who was singing and playing. And amazingly, Dave is also the composer of Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. But very, very brilliant man and performer.
Quite amazing. I
Incredible.
was floored that he put basically the whole thing together from beginning to end.
Yeah, got the idea, you know, which you may have read from previous interviews, but was reading War and Peace with a girlfriend of his. He was working on a cruise ship at the time, and she was at home on land, and they were sort of reading it as a project together. They both got to the section that our version is based on, which is about 68 pages. And they both kind of fell in love with that section of the book, and he thought this would be really cool to kind of musicalize this. And then interestingly enough, was shot down a couple times, because when you hear the idea, War and Peace as a musical.
What I say, it's never the concept, it's the execution. If we go back a little bit, this started originally at Ars Nova, right?
Yeah.
And you were both involved at that time?
Yes, we were both at Ars Nova, but there were 2 workshops that happened at Ars Nova. They helped Dave develop the piece, and you were in...
I did one of those workshops, a year ago in May, and then I believe there was one prior to that, which I was not involved with. But we both came in for the production, the actual first production of it.
Yeah.
I heard something cute about Dave actually taking the book and the piano and just reading the pages and writing the music as he was going on.
When you watch the show or when you listen to the cast recording, so little of it rhymes. It's not about creating a rhyme structure or writing lyrics, you know, in that traditional way. It literally is the story of War and Peace and the text from the characters' mouths. We're all just communicating thoughts.
Because you're singing your own narration a lot of the
time.
I didn't miss it, even though even though you would think it would come out more like recitative then.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But I didn't miss the non-rhyming at all. I didn't need it.
Which is very much a structure he focused on, because this was, you know, he wanted it to be an opera that we're doing. And yes, it's a bunch of actors doing an opera. But there are these sections of recitative, and then it's just people sort of singing about what they're feeling, like arias are. No one's worried about a rhyme scheme, you know, in traditional opera, which is what he really embraced in this as well, which I think's awesome and boldly going where a lot of musical theater has never gone.
And then from Ars Nova, it moved downtown to the first Casino tent under the High Line on 13th Street. And then it's recently moved to 45th Street and 8th Avenue. It's running now till the end of the month. That they are publicizing. I'm hoping for a lot more out of it. I do think it would be something would be lost if you had to present it in a traditional theater, but who knows? We'll see.
Yes, we have a really amazing creative team with a lot of ideas up their sleeve.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we didn't at first think it was possible to go from Ars Nova to the 200-seat house that you saw the show in. So.
Well, which brings up, I didn't even know when I signed the contract for this that it was going to be like this, which I think you may have known a little.
Yeah. Rachel, you know, she has her own company called The Team, and they work quite a bit overseas, where this style of theater, immersive shows, are quite popular there right now. And they're just starting to come over here, like Punch Drunk Sleep No More, you know, that type of show. And so I think this is like a new frontier she wanted to play in. And then Dave Malloy, on a visit to Russia, went to a club where the musicians were actually spread about the room. So he got the idea then to repeat that idea. And I think everybody just built upon each other to make the whole thing an immersive experience. But it started with having the musicians.
Well, that's even musically speaking, it's hard to do that.
Our sound designer, you know, Matt Hubbs, the amount of technology going on in that room to be able to create a mix that is housing all of these instruments and musicians in certain corners of the room, and also a main band that's in the center of the room. To be able to sit in front of the oboe player and get an organic experience behind you, but still hear the string section on the other side of the room, as well as panning the sound to the area where the actor is when we open our mouth, so that the audience knows to turn their head this way to look at what's going on over here, and to turn their head this way. And the lights and the sound are assisting with all of that.
Okay, now I want to focus on the two of you. So you've had careers now, both of you, for, you know, shorter than some of our usual guests, but you've had very significant careers, and you've, I know how hard it is. I know how really hard it is to make it and to spend time and work your tails off on everything to get ahead. Oh yeah. Amber, let's talk with you first, okay, if that's all right. And we have some stills, so let us show the stills from the thing, and you comment upon them, and I'll see if I throw something in there.
All right.
Wow.
I think I called that the Gypsy Rose Leaf.
Yes, you did. That's me singing an Eartha Kitt song. So it was another piece that Ars Nova helped develop over the course of about 2 years, and it just had its first production this fall. And I could not do the final production because of Great Comet. But
I just want to say, you were doing an Eartha Kitt number?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Because I've thought that for so long about her. There's this awesome quality of Eartha Kitt to her. That
I think so too.
I would love
I saw Eartha Kitt live at a nightclub, purring a few inches away from me. Okay, you're wearing a boat.
Yes, so this particular show is a romantic comedy. It's a farce, but it's told with a lot of burlesque. Ars Nova likes combining different worlds, so it's burlesque, it's rhyming couplets and singing and a lot of different genres coming together.
Okay, now my favorite shot. This reminded me of Dick Cavett having written the line for Johnny Carson. Raquel Welch was on, and she walks in and sits down, and Johnny looks over at her and says, "Those are a lovely dress you're wearing."
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Similar comments happen in Great Comet.
Yes.
Well, I mean, if you've got it.
You're coursing it in there, honey.
Yes, for sure. In that shot, too. I mean, my joke, sometimes audience members ask me about it, my joke is always, I'm wearing an anti-gravity device. So I would hope they're up there. Yeah. These are shots of Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Gospel Choir, which is ultimately a political activist group that I've performed with for about 8 years. But to get the message out in a fun way, we have a mock gospel church service that we do around the city, in the streets, like this shot, or in actual theaters. That was at the Highline Ballroom with our choir robes
cool.
on. Yeah.
There you are.
Yes, there I am, clapping.
Are you singing gospel?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
We're singing gospel, clapping.
Okay.
So how did
Yeah.
you find the choir?
They actually found me. It was very strange. A woman in the choir used to be Moises Kaufman's assistant, and he was a director of mine once, and so he sent her to watch me in a showcase.
Cool.
And yeah, and they just called and said they needed altos, and it happened to say on my resume that I could sing. And this assistant liked
It
me.
happened to say?
Happened to say that I could sing. So, yeah.
Wasn't that up there big in prominence?
It wasn't for a long time. You know, that's something I've only really started admitting in the last couple of years, how much I love singing and that I want to go more in this direction of the types of musicals that we're in right now.
So in the actor, singer, dancer routine, you would do it in that order? Would you have done it in that order, or?
Yeah, I definitely would say actor first for many years, and in the last couple of years, singing is pretty important. I want them to be equal. Yeah.
Of course, everybody in New York does the standard joke at a restaurant. Oh, actor, singer, dancer, when you want the
Yeah.
waiter.
Right, of course, yes.
Yeah, when you want the
Horrible.
waiter. The World is Round. Now, what's this?
The World is Round is a piece based on Gertrude Stein's children's book called The World is Round. And the blonde woman in the front here, her name's Heather Christian. She's a composer that I've been working with for a couple of years, and she was commissioned to make this piece, and it premieres this spring at BAM, which I'm quite excited about. And again, who knows if I'll be able to be in it because of Great Comet. The show has silk, so that's the blurred person is me.
Did you
flying
learn
around
how
so.
to
Yeah,
do
we
the
did.
whole thing?
We trained for a
Drop
couple of
16
months.
feet
Yes.
on. Okay. Mission Drift.
In Mission Drift, so yeah, these companies I've been working with, they all tend to overlap quite a bit. So this is another production directed by Rachel Chafkin, who directed Great Comet, and the composer is Heather Christian, who composed The World is Round as well. There's a lot of overlap there, a lot of friends working together.
And how is that, primarily your work with Rachel has been sort of in what direction? It's been more sort of experimental, yes?
Yeah, her company, I think as a generalization would be explained as experimental, her company. But they devise their pieces over the course of like 2 or 3 years, and it's all created through collaboration, and that's the world I've tend to work in. I've worked in the most, I'd say.
And speaking of Mission Drift, I think we have a number from you from Mission Drift, yes?
We do, yes. The music in that show is a bit more atmospheric, so it's not quite as obvious what's going on, but.
Well, you want to sing for us
Sure.
and explain it to us if you want?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll say, I'll go for it.
Skin to the nail to the skeleton. Blood highway, byway, bone. Old butterfly song of destruction. Carry me traveling. No one here remembers my song.
I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to
I
say.
mean, I love this woman.
I'm absolutely was mesmerized. I think
know.
I'm lost in that piece.
Well, thank you. That is the finale of the song, and there are 4 other people singing in it as well. And basically, end of the story, one of the characters decides to commit suicide and walk off into the desert and just die into the desert. So the last scene is a woman running, and there at this point is much sand across the stage, and we all just sing that song while she runs herself into the ground. It's a very beautiful scene, beautiful image.
It's amazingly how entirely atmospheric that is.
Yeah, it is.
Completely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Now we want to have time to get to Lucas's songs, so let's show Lucas's stills, shall we?
This is from a show that I did called The Kid with a wonderful actor who I really cannot say enough about. Christopher Sieber is there in that shot with me. A lot of people know him. He has Tony nominations and is just wonderful, wonderful talent. But we did this show together called The Kid, in which he played Dan Savage and I played Dan's real-life boyfriend, Terry Miller. For anyone who doesn't know who Dan Savage is, he got famous writing a syndicated sex column in Seattle, and then wrote a novel about his real-life experience with his partner, Terry, adopting a child, which they ultimately adopted from a homeless girl on the street through an agency, and everything was professional. But it's a really amazing portrait at what it is to be a family, what that really means, how it's not sort of defined by sexuality. Like it's the love that really matters.
Well,
in that
I had the
situation.
pleasure of seeing the show, and I thought you and Chris worked phenomenally together.
No,
There
thank
was
you.
great rapport.
Thanks.
And the whole show is, at the same time, very funny. Really care about what's happened.
I think it's interesting how The Kid, and there's a little bit of it that happens in Natasha, Pierre, they sneak up on you. You think you're there for one thing, and then by the end you realize you're suddenly invested in these people's lives.
Right.
You have feelings for what is going on.
And you have to let go of those preconceived notions.
Yeah, and that's what I love. That's the kind of work that I love to do. You know, that challenges people in a way and makes you sort of stop and think, and even questions what you think is good or not. Even good on a level of this is good art or not good art. You know, it makes you question, and ultimately does end up leading you, swaying you to expand your mind in that way and accept it.
We should acknowledge that that was a musical.
Yes, a musical with,
as well.
Yeah, with an incredible book. You know, I'm also so grateful to play such a different range of characters that also function in such different ways musically. You know, The Kid was very much a play with music. And then to be working on Natasha, Pierre, which very much, because this is an acting piece, no doubt, but we are singing all of it.
Right.
You know, and there's a way for me to show off a little bit, you know, but that I didn't get to kind of show people in The Kid.
I know, you get to, that's wonderful. You just get to be different people and do different things.
Yeah.
And try different chops, you know, on different shows.
Which is just the whole point of what we do, you know? But I think it's so easy. You were talking about that thing of, you know, it's easy for people to be typecast, you know, because it's easier for them to decide that they know what you are.
I hate to say this, but it's always been my opinion. The more talented you are, the more trouble you're going to have. Because the show you do, people see, they say, he's fantastic. Oh, that's what he does. Or that's what she does.
Yes.
You know, and then they don't realize that you possibly could do something else.
Right, right.
So, you know, the answer is, don't be so good.
Well, this is true. I think we both wear that burden with honor, no doubt about it. You know, I'm grateful for it. At the same time, it's a two-edged sword.
We're going to finish going through the slides.
This is a show I did written by Adam Gettle called Myths and Hymns. The Elizabeth Lucas, originally it was a song cycle. There was no production, it was just a concert presented out of the Public Theater. But Elizabeth Lucas came along and wrote a very sparse but beautiful, almost a screenplay to tell the story.
I was amazed because Adam wrote this particularly as separate as pieces. and yet it does tell a story very easily. And she didn't, as you say, she didn't impose too much on it, but she came up with a lovely story that just let it move along with the music that Adam had written.
It's a very Robert Altman style with her.
Yeah.
There's lots of improvising that goes on for weeks to sort of determine what is going to happen. She defines it, no doubt about it.
Then, okay, Three Penny. This is one of my favorite pictures.
Man, what a crazy time of life.
Because there are several people in the cast who I knew that you knew that we got back. Nellie McKay was in this, and you and I went to see her with Philippe Quint, who plays the violin. At which time you promptly informed me that you played the violin. And Alan Cumming, who since the first moment I ever saw him on screen, I sat up in my chair and said to my friends, watch him. The man is fascinating.
Yeah.
He knows,
it's true.
He's just like, you can't take your eyes off of him.
It's true.
You are many things that we don't normally get to talk about, you know, besides being the singer.
Or the actor.
Or the actor.
Yeah.
So, or the violinist, which very few people seem to know about, or the composer, or the producer, or you know, or the music impresario, you know. So, how do you do it? I'm exhausted.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's something that over the years I've sort of found a way to balance it. It becomes difficult when you are. Theater's a tough job. It's a full-time job. You know, you really have to break your legs, so to speak, to keep working on other stuff while you're doing that. But I started out playing the piano when I was about 3.5 years old. You know, my parents realized I could play by ear and started writing my first compositions when I was 5. You know, so things always were kind of headed in that direction. Because I consider myself a creative above anything, really. I don't define myself as being an actor or a singer or a songwriter or a music producer. You know, what's important to me and what keeps me existing is to create. And I spent, you know, 4 years of my life sort of flying back and forth between New York and Europe in a developmental deal for an album, you know, which never saw the light of day. But with that said, I learned so much about the commercial music industry, about music production in itself. It really empowered me in those ways to be able to create the things that I hear in my head, to get them into an oral form that other people can hear it.
We're running out of time. Goodbye to the home and studio audiences, and thank them for tuning into Conversations. And thank you, Amber, so much for being here. And Lucas, both of you, you're wonderful. And we will go out on the number that you have written, that you're going to sing for us.
I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Even though I'm opening up, it feels like I'm closing down. Even though the answers are clear, the questions still they sound. So I'm shutting you down, 'cause you're turning me out from the inside. Yes, I'm shutting you down, 'cause you're pulling me out, and I can't hide. And though I'm falling deep for you, a rush of feelings surface through, I'm telling you, I'm not ready. I'm not over. But this feeling, it takes over. And I'm ready. And I'm sober. But it's fleeting. Then it's over. I think I am, and then I'm just a cataclysm of self-fulfillment raging in my heart. A revolution of ego leaves me facing a new start. So I bury my hands and I bury my heart on the inside. Yes, yes, I bury my hands and I bury myself, but I can't hide. And though I'm falling deep for you, the fear of falling's nothing new. I'm telling you, I'm not ready